Hey everyone, it's me, Rai Paints, and today I'm going to be talking you through my process in painting this UFO painting. I'm painting on Blick Studio Linen. I love linen because it has kind of a irregular weave to it, which makes it feel really organic. And I go in with a little bit of oil paint, diluted a tiny bit with a little bit of linseed oil. I'm trying not to put much fat or linseed oil in this layer because I want it to be my lean layer. In oil painting, you always paint fat over lean. After a layer dries, then you put a fattier layer on top. Not the thickness of the paint, but the solution of it, so that it's going to have more linseed oil in it, more fat. The black I'm using is Perylene black. I like it because it's kind of like a greenish, cold black. A lot of painters will say don't use black, and I'm one of them too. But this is a very colorful black, so I'm using it to create my underpainting layer with it. I'm also adding some cobalt turquoise, which is a beautiful deep turquoise color, very much on the bluer side. After mapping out my composition, I start to add in the darks, and then I also hit where my lightest light is going to be, which is right under the UFO where it's glowing. I know I want there to be kind of like a little town in the distance and some kind of like either waterway or road kind of in the foreground. I want this to be a night scene with the city kind of glowing in the background. It's something I'm very familiar with in driving home late at night, is seeing light pollution. So I wanted to create this city kind of doing that. The city is not going to be like contemporary city. I wanted it to feel very old, maybe like a 19th century or 18th century city. I'm really having to scrub in the paint because I'm not diluting it with a solvent. I'm not using solvents in my oil paint anymore, so it's really having to scrub it in. And like I said before, I don't want to add too much oil to this layer, so I just work it in with a hog bristle. This is actually synthetic hog bristle, so I'm able to be extra rough with it and the bristles don't kind of break away. It's by Winsor & Newton. They didn't sponsor this video, but they do. I do work for them doing demos, so I have a lot of their materials. So full transparency there. I'll be using a lot of their materials all the time. But like I said before, this canvas is linen canvas by Blick. Blick Art Store makes a ton of surfaces that I like, so I usually will grab some of theirs when they have their really good back to school deals and stuff. Blick, definitely not a sponsor. But you can see I'm getting the glow going by using a fan brush to kind of soften it even more. Fan brushes are awesome because they're so round, like their diameter of the way the bristles are spread out, that you can really soften things very easily. What's great about oil painting, if you never used oil paint here watching this, is the paint doesn't dry right away. So this is sped up twice the speed, so it's about a 30-minute underpainting, but you're going to see it in 30 minutes. But if this was acrylic, the paint would be drying almost instantly, especially hitting a fresh canvas where it's really porous and soaks up all the moisture. But with oil paint, you have hours to paint with it. It's really nice, sometimes days. Really lends itself to being blended and painting nature and skies and cloudy, misty, rainy nights like this painting. Starting to form more of the light coming down from the UFO. It's a lot of fun creating the glow. The white just melts into the background, which is a lot of fun. I'm trying to use more vertical angled strokes to make it feel like it's raining. Going back in with the fan brush and hitting it to really soften it out a lot. This is a Monarch brush, also by Winsor & Newton. They have They're my favorite oil brush. There's ones that I might like more, but I feel like they're my favorite because they're the most affordable when it comes to kind of oil painting brushes. They're not the cheapest brush out there, but they are soft and they got the spring that I like. They still move the paint around, but they're soft enough to kind of get really good blends. Now I went back to the synthetic hog bristle. Synthetic hog bristles and hog bristles in general are known for kind of really being able to move heavy paint around, moving the oil paint around. So that's why I like to use this brush a lot when I'm starting off a painting, this hog bristle, synthetic hog bristle, because it pushes paint out really easily. The bristles are stiffer than the Monarch brushes. Now I'm kind of creating a little bit of a mountainside or hillside, using more horizontal strokes so that I could create the illusion of hills or landscape moving from left to right. With my cobalt turquoise on my brush, I grabbed a little bit of some yellow you could see, which created the illusion of green, or not the illusion, but it gave it more of a greenish fill. This brush I'm just pinching off. I'm not washing it between or rinsing it out. Like I said before, I'm not using solvent, so I'm just pinching off my brush and loading it with more paint, and it kind of makes things harmonious because there's a little paint left over from what I painted before. And that's kind of part of nature, is everything's kind of tied together by the same light of the sky. So the sky is really building out how the whole feel of the painting will be. And that's how it happens in painting too. It's kind of, the sky is still in the brush, so it's still bringing in a lot of grays and that perylene black throughout the whole painting. I'm really just working on filling up the canvas now so I could see how it looks. So I can see how that glow looks because I hit the white of the UFO right underneath it, the glow. So if I get rid of this kind of white canvas, I'll be able to read better what the glow is looking like. If I need to make it brighter or make other places darker. Looks like I'm hitting it with some light, some either titanium white with a little bit of cadmium yellow light pale. Probably give the feel of the glow from the UFO right at the center of that field or whatever it is. Gonna get even brighter. Oh, this is fun. When you do this part of oil painting, you just add in the light and it just melts into the medium so easily. Keeping things in the distance more blue, so it feels more further away, like the atmosphere kind of grayed out the yellow. It's just turning blue. Here we go again. Now just kind of filling it up. I don't know, there's going to be like trees or something in the foreground. And I got like a little pathway going down the center. Let's get it all filled in. Voila. So is the painting done? Not quite. And hit the foreground a little bit with a glow. It's probably catching some of the UFO light or rays coming down. And I'm really going to go in and layer in some contrast now. So getting just the straight up perylene black and layering it into my painting. I know in the future I'm going to be glazing over this, so I'll be able to get a lot more color into these blacks. I'm not too worried about it going in just straight black or being really dark at all. Just really trying to build in contrast, framing the composition by putting two big large objects, kind of bookshelving the ends on the sides so you get drawn more into the center. It's fun how fast oil paintings could come together when you're working on them. I remember at this point in the painting, I was like, wow, it was only like 20 minutes in at the time, and it had gone really well. And I was like, what else can I do to push it further? Thought, well, let's put some lights where the little city's happening, because it's dark enough and stormy enough, everyone have their little lights on. When I think of old towns, I always think of like churches and steeples, so I put in like a little towering architecture over the city. I put some lights kind of breaking through the tree line. This is a lot of fun, just creating a whole little universe within your little painting. This is just a 12 by 12 inch canvas, so creating these little worlds almost feels like creating a little terrarium. I'm a big fan of terrariums. I have never had one. I've always wanted to make one, but I feel like that's what painting is. You're creating this little world within these confinements. So yeah, I don't know. I love the idea of it's almost creating like a little terrarium of a UFO. Let's put some roofs on the houses. Get those roofs in. Get those windows in. This is a tiny little monarch brush. Can you tell I've used it a lot? There's like paint all over it. It's all dry paint. Let's get like little trees in the background too. There we go. Little bushes. Little chimneys or smoke or pine trees or cypress trees or anything I do to add a lot of little details in the background. I love just how easy these things kind of come about. Oil painting can be so addicting. That's more contrast in these little trees so it pops forward more. Let's get the UFO more rendered. Part of me wanted to just leave it all ambiguous like that, but for this series I do want to focus on these paranormal experiences and decided to make it really crisp. I could always soften it later when I do the glazes. More little leaves in the tree. Part of me wants to make every single little tree into a weeping willow, but I'm not gonna. Want this one to be very bushy. The green part almost looks like water. I wonder if I can make it into a river or if I want to keep it as a field, but I just put some more little rocks and trees on the other side of the road to push that field or river, whatever it is, back a little more. Majority of this painting was done with about 4 brushes. This is a little flat. The flats are nice because you could get really square little leaves in, but also use the edge of it like sideways to create really thin lines, which is a lot of fun to do with them. Kind of cut in and wait, let's cast a big shadow from the tree. That was fun. This was a fun painting. If you do any landscape painting, you should definitely reach out to me. I'd love to see what you're working on. If you want to see more of these videos, please let me know. Please comment, share, like. I'm going to be doing a bunch of them, so I want to hear your thoughts. And also, have you ever had a UFO experience? I'll have to tell you about an experience I had one time. I now know it was not a UFO. But if you want to hear that story, I'll definitely tell you in a video coming up. Once this layer is done, I'm going to shelve the painting for a couple weeks to let it completely dry, and then later I'll adjust colors and the luminosity of it a little bit by painting very thin layers with a lot of linseed oil, well, a very thin layer of linseed oil with a little bit of paint to kind of tint it in a way, or kind of, they call it glazing, and then I'll let that dry for a couple weeks and then do another glaze, let it dry, do another glaze, and repeat the process until I'm happy with the illuminated look that I create.